USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey, who you're packing, right? Or have you started a pack?
Well, we're getting pretty darn close there, Jim, because in previous episodes we did not have a trip planned, but I knew I was not going to be able to go this entire summer without making our trek down. So we're heading down in about a week, and we're staying at the brand new Terra Luna. So we're pretty excited.
Cow.
And
Ooh.
yeah, and we'll get to venture into Epic for the second time, but this time it's going to be with more people, I'm sure. We were fortunate enough to go back in April during a pass holder preview, the first day of pass holder preview. So we will see, and I'll be able to report back the differences of what it's like when they're, I guess, throttling attendance versus now it's the full force of summer, and how long will I have to wait for things to so it could be a different experience.
I'm kind of hoping it is, at least for your sake, and at the Terra Luna. Wow. Okay. Not the Helios, but that's still cool. All right, holy cow. Why that as opposed to...
Well, Jim, at the end of the day, we went and they had a heck of good deals for annual pass holders. So I think it was like $230 just when we were just shopping around. And then when we plugged in our account as annual pass holder, it went down to like $120.
Whoa.
So $120 for a brand new room that we haven't got to stay at. So I don't believe this one has the walking path. I believe it's the Stella Nova that has the 15-minute walking path. But we're going to scope things out and see how it is. And we're going to spend... It is July, so we're going to spend a lot of time at the pool and getting some refreshments as well, because Lord knows, I don't know midday if I have what it takes to be inside of a very hot park. So we'll be spending some time at the Terra.
Neither do I. And again, Miles, of course, is still recovering from Lyme disease. So just swing by Lowe's and just get some White House paint and tell him it's like SPF 150. All right, just coat that boy. Okay. All right. So, and no, that's cool that you got that rate. But of course, us civilians, we need help when it comes to getting good hotel rates or low theme park tickets, which is why if you're planning a trip to Universal Orlando or Walt Disney World, please check out Unlock Magic. They offer real discounts, up to 12% off theme park tickets. And with over 10 million in ticket savings, Unlock Magic is the best option for big savings. So visit unlockmagic.com and save today. And I'm sorry, I think that was a pretty slick slide straight into the ad.
Jim, I was applauding. Didn't you see? I was giving you a standing ovation here, Jim.
There we go. We try. Okay, now to the news of this week. And of course, over the longish 4th of July weekend, I want to say that this Gareth Edwards movie opened on July 2nd, out ahead of the holiday. But Jurassic World Rebirth did some crazy impressive numbers, didn't it?
Yeah, Jim, I was actually surprised by this. I mean, I know there was lots of synergy. We talked on the last show about how they revamped an entire 7-Eleven. I was watching some YouTube videos and City Walk was all decked out with different panels and so forth. And you saw a lot of the advertising, but I didn't quite realize that Jurassic World Rebirth was that big of a deal. It had 322 million global, which just seems huge.
Oh, no. That's a crazy number for I mean, mind you, it's a holiday opening weekend, so it's 5 days. But even so, to do that, and I want to say stateside, it was 147. Which, by the way, was significantly ahead of the initial projections that Universal put out for domestic ticket sales. So yeah, they've got to be thrilled at how Rebirth effectively relaunched the Jurassic World film franchise.
Right, and I mean, so Dominion was the last one, right? Mm-hmm. And it was, I think it hit $1 billion worldwide. So I guess we're pretty much on track to kind of hit the same, right?
Well, yeah. When you're
is it too early to say? I mean,
well, no. I mean, it's just when you're at 323. Is that what our number? Yeah, excuse me, 322.5. and you're there a week in. Yeah, $1 billion suddenly seems like, oh, geez, well, yes, of course we're going to get there. So,
Right.
and let's be honest here. I mean, what's wonderful about a movie with dinosaurs eating people is you don't have to translate it.
Right. It goes everywhere. That's it. It's like everybody can understand that. It could be a silent film and you could still be entertained.
There we go.
But they do one thing that I was shocked by. It came out kind of the day after or whatever. Did you see Scarlett Johansson, which, fun fact, has the exact same birthday as Lauren, my wife, co-host of the I Want That Too, and as producer Dave, the exact same birthday, mind you, and the exact same age. So we like to call them like triplets. Okay. So Scarlett Johansson, Dave, and Lauren are all of the same. But she has become the number one highest grossing lead actor of all time. Did you see that? Is that real? That seems fake.
I mean, well, face it, when you have appeared in a bunch of Avengers movies, that sort of helps your number along. But what I love about Scarlett being in this film, Rebirth, is she actively pursued this role. In fact, she was the one when they were making the original Avengers, she arranged a movie night so everybody could go see Chris Pratt in the original Jurassic World. I mean, she's loved these films since she was a kid. In fact, I guess she was trying to decide out ahead of her initial meeting with Spielberg whether to include the photo that her mom took of her in her bedroom with her Jurassic Park sheets.
Right.
So the fact that it's done as well as it's done so far, and it's put her now in this highest grossing lead actor of all time, what 14.8 billion?
Gee, right. No, I just didn't see it happen. I would have said Tom Hanks or something like Tom Cruise. But Scarlett, that was a shocker, but it makes sense. And just think, if Black Widow didn't come out during COVID, she could have even had more to that number, right?
This is true. Which brings us back to the whole Disney situation, because again, as she was mentioning, walking the red carpet for Jurassic World Rebirth, it's been since 2022, I want to say, that she's been talking about that a Twilight Zone Tower of Terror movie.
Yeah.
And still can't break the script. It's like, oh, well, okay. At some point an elevator should fall. I mean, I hope that's in the movie.
Right. So, right. Well, I think speaking of my question to you from a theme park perspective is Jurassic World and park is all over the theme parks now, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway,
yep.
Is there anything else they could do to take advantage of this movie, or are they pretty much what they have is what they have? They don't need to throw Scarlett in a ride or do any other attractions.
Well, what's kind of interesting, in fact, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos for Universal Studios Beijing, but they have a Jurassic World ride over there. Yeah. That is just nuts.
Right.
And the beauty part of it is it's totally indoors. And my understanding is that the Universal Studios UK project, this has already been penciled in for that. Look, they've done the Jurassic World redo for Universal Hollywood on the lower lot. And there has been some discussion of should we do this in Florida? And I think the closest they got was the Velocicoaster.
Right.
But yeah, it would be interesting, especially, Universal has made no bones about the fact that while this film leaves no obvious Easter eggs or story threads left to explore for a sequel, that they're very upfront about the fact, this is the first film of a new trilogy. Mm-hmm. So, and if Scarlett is as rabid a Jurassic Park fan as she seems to be, the fact that, well, spoiler alert, she doesn't get eaten, and neither does Mahershala Ali. Who knows? That they could come back for Jurassic Park Rebirth.
Right. Well, she's got to defend her championship here. She has to keep that money going and be the worldwide leader. So
there we go.
But You mentioned the UK park earlier.
I
and
did.
Did you see that they announced a little bit more information? Not a whole bunch of more information, but some new breaking details that came out. I think it was in the Independent, which just makes me think of Ted Lasso and Krim standing up saying the Independent. But did you see that they announced some information here?
Yeah, and I love that you did the research here. I mean, for example, coasters up to what is that, 150 meters tall? Which
I had to do the conversion, Jim. I
same
didn't know
thing
what
here.
that meant.
Same thing here. Okay, so that's 337 feet, and thank you for providing contracts. So we were just talking about Velocicoaster at Island Adventure, and that at its highest point is 155 feet tall. Whereas Rip Ride Rocket, which is about to be Rip Ride Rip Down, that's 167 feet. So
nearly double, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. This won't be one I'm going, but that's kind of one of the things is they're saying, hey, it's going to be a huge and coasters are pretty prominent over in the UK, right? They have a lot of like very good coaster parks.
They do, but as somebody, look, my people came from the British Isles. All right, we're a very pasty, hairy bunch, and and that's because they actually have winter over there, and the notion of oh boy, let's go and enjoy the holiday decorations at Universal UK, and let's sneak in a roller coaster and getting pummeled with sleet is not my idea of entertaining thrill ride. So
right. Well, but it does sound like they're going to do Halloween Horror Nights over there. At least it talks about the park should be open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and extended hours till 2 a.m. That is insane. But that has to be they have to be alluding to Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, absolutely.
Up to 60 nights per year. And they project that they're basically this park is designated to accommodate 55,000 visitors on a peak day and 8.5 million annual guests for their phase 1. And then expanding over the next 20 years, they say 12 million. So pretty, I mean, 55,000 visitors, that's a lot of people, right? What's the equivalent, do you think?
Oh, boy. I mean, face it, the Kingdom on a 4th of July or Christmas, what is that, 70, 80?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is probably like a Hollywood Studios, maybe even like Animal Kingdom kind of park.
Boy, it's hard to say because, again, remember, the whole notion of entire sections of this park are going to be undercover, again, because of that lovely United Kingdom weather. Just going to be kind of interesting to see what sort of a mix is here. And also there was news about the hotel, right?
Yeah, the 500 hotel rooms, dining, shopping, entertainment venues, and so forth. So, I mean, not a lot of news, but so there's going to be a hotel there, and we'll see how. 500 rooms. I don't really do a lot of room count, but I mean that's not a tremendously large room, hotel, but enough to help get some people in the park and stay and take advantage of maybe those early extended hours.
Well, I bring that up because the other info you shared this week, of course, we've had some additional information about Universal Kids, the resort that's being built out in Frisco, Texas. And this piece of concept art very clearly shows a hotel over the entrance of the park. And did we get any numbers about what the occupancy for that was going to be?
It was a smaller one though, right? I mean, it wasn't a ton of rooms. I think it was in what, a couple 300 rooms is what I believe expected. So the one in UK is bigger than this, but this looks pretty prominent. They gave new concept art. It just came out maybe a couple weeks ago, and we were very knee deep in Halloween Horror Nights, and I didn't want to make it too PG or G rated with this kids news, so I figured we could break it now. Okay. But you did see that like they have new concept, so you can really zoom in and kind of see what's going on. And it looks like there's a Minions ride update. So it's like a water ride, like a whirlwind effect. And they changed some of the design there. So if you do like a before and after of this concept art, you can kind of tell some of the slight changes. And the other one was the Trolls area was redesigned. So it was like a tent style before, but now it's kind of like what they call TrollsFest. So I'm guessing it's going to have some singing. I mean,
Oh,
that's kind of what the
God,
Trolls movies are all about, right?
yeah. And if anything, something to put your little darlings in front of to jump up and down and sing. So, yeah, I mean, that's what's genuinely intriguing about Universal Kids, that this is A, their first regional park, B, this is kind of using the Lego land model, that it's
Right.
aimed at 3 to 10-year-olds, I want to say, with the idea that this gives kids their first taste of the Universal experience and then makes them say, "Oh, mommy and daddy, forget about that mouse. I want to go to either the Universal Park in California or the Universal Park in Florida." But yeah, anything else leap out from you from the site plan, or?
Oh, I mean, I did see. I mean, like they're going from the hotel in directly into the park, which is, I think, smart. There's still a pool area in the park. I mean, we have like SpongeBob Land, and I was surprised by like the water ride in the middle of it. It just seems to me like this whole park could have been like water ride, but it's not a water theme park. It is an actual theme park. But not for those out there, go online, look, and kind of you can zoom in and see a little bit more detail than what we had before. It's still concept art, so you kind of have to make some guesses on what's going on. But I don't know, Jim. I'm actually I'm looking forward to going to this park.
Oh, no.
I know
absolutely.
I don't fit in that 10-year-old, and
No.
Miles will be on the brink, and he's kind of getting out of some of these things. But I think as a themed entertainment fan, there's enough there that I would be able to say, all right, let's go enjoy Texas and stay here and, see some other regional things, but make a day out of this park.
That definitely sounds like a plan. But as you mentioned, again, with the hotel over the entrance, and what's fascinating about that is that this means that down at street level, that's your admissions, that's gift shops. I mean, again, it's a very compact, but seemed to be a very colorful plan.
Oh, yeah. Very, very colorful. So for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm jazzed about it. I'm going to try. I mean, I haven't been to Texas for a while, but I think it'll be worth the voyage. And like, if this is success, this could be a very nice dipping of the toe in Texas. Everybody's always said, hey, theme park, nice weather, stuff like that. This would be an interesting, if this is super successful, who knows if they could expand or other places would build out.
Well, I mean, if you want to see something interesting, because again, the Universal is not the first to consider going into Texas. In fact, if you want to lose an evening, head on over to Google and type in Disney Texposition.
Oh.
Which was a serious project that Disney considered when they were also looking at the regional market. But the difference is that Disney walked up to the brink and went, maybe not. Whereas Universal dove right into the kiddie pool. So, and here we are.
That's great. No, that's great. So we'll keep an eye on that and we'll be reporting it. But Jim, we also had a listener question this week that from Brandon reached out on X and had a question I did not have the answer to. And we'll see if you know a little thing or two about mosquitoes and water movement. But this is what Brandon wrote. He said he recently watched a video on how Walt Disney World managed to get rid of the mosquito problem by building a series of canals and waterways with continuous flow. So it got him wondering, how does Universal manage it? Then wondering, what is the history story behind the waterway system connecting the hotels? Are the boats purely transportation purposes? Do they help to keep that continuous water movement to prevent mosquitoes? Are there any chance of expansion? What do we know, Jim, about mosquitoes and waterway systems?
That's genuinely an intriguing topic. Now, mind you, the waterways at the Universal Orlando Resort, of course, date back to the expansion beyond just the Universal Studios Florida park.
Right.
In fact, what's always been kind of fascinating for us old farts, is remembering being there in 1990 and today trying to extrapolate, okay, if I was standing in the parking lot then, where am I now?
Right.
And they dug this amazing system of canals that takes folks all the way out to the Portofino and the Hard Rock, and then toward the other side to the Royal Pacific. And dear Lord, I'm blanking the two. that just got added beyond the Royal Pacific.
The Cabana Bay, does it reach there? I think there's a walkway, but I don't think it goes there.
Is not on the canal boat system, but the two tower hotels directly across the way from it are. And, yes, there is a component of that does, in theory, keep the mosquitoes at bay. But no, this is an excellent story. Tell you what, Brandon, I will do some research on it. Now, mind you, the past week or so, I've been, kind of face down in another water-related story. This one is actually about Jaws and Universal's decision to make some sequels, but we will get to that on the next part of this week's Epic Universal podcast. But first, this.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Okay, so previously on this podcast, thanks to our guest, Mike Aiello, we've had a lot of conversations about the 50th anniversary of the release of Jaws. And by the way, wanted to share with folks that and Eric, again, you're going to steer clear of this. This would be too intense for you. It's August 29th. The original Jaws is going back into theaters in 4K and in IMAX. All right.
Oh, God.
and the irony is, how much bigger a boat could you get at that point?
Oh, God.
We're going to need a bigger boat. It's on IMAX screen. How big could the boat be? So
Titanic worthy, Jim.
Oh, there we go. All right. And look, the story about the making of the Steven Spielberg movie, I mean, again, has always personally fascinated me. And because, Eric, when they started work out there on Martha's Vineyard. The original Jaws was only supposed to take 55 days. They got underway on May 2nd, 1974, and original plan, we'll be done June 24th. In fact, we'll be out of here before the 4th of July crowds. Not what happened. The production of the original Jaws, Eric, dragged on for 159 days. They didn't wrap until October 6th, 1974.
They never heard of the ocean before. They didn't realize that wasn't a very easy place to shoot, right?
Oh, God, no. and consequently, the budget, the cost of making the original Jaws rose from $4 million to $9 million. More than double. And
that's Spielberg's one of his early movies, right? So he doesn't have like he's in trouble. He's going to the principal's office for this.
Well, but that's the beauty part of it. The executives in Black Tower, they're in Hollywood, where Steven is off the coast of Massachusetts. So right. It's hard to yell at him. But they did. Because again, he's overscheduled, he's over budget. And more to the point, you'd think Universal would never, ever want to work with the director of the original Jaws ever again. But again, that's before this Steven Spielberg film becomes the first movie ever to sell more than $100 million worth of tickets in North America. It in fact, is considered the first true summer blockbuster. So now we jump to October of 1975, where this is right after Jaws has, for 14 weeks in a row, Eric, been the number one film at the stateside box office. So now David Brown and Richard D. Zanuck, the producers, those same gentlemen who had to get on a plane, in Hollywood and fly all the way out to Martha's Vineyard to yell at Stephen. They have a sit down with Mr. Spielberg to discuss his involvement with a Jaws sequel. And at the very start of this meeting, Stephen glances at the calendar, and it's now again early October of 1975, and he mentions to Richard and David, you understand that this time last year, I was still on the set. You guys were furious at me because we were 100 days over schedule, and I spent twice the amount of money you'd budgeted. And Brown and Zanuck, none of that matters now. All of the strife, all of the drama. You made a hit movie, the type of hit Hollywood has never, ever seen before, which is why the suits up in the Black Tower are now pleading for a sequel, which, as this meeting proceeds, Brown and Zanuck are about to learn is going to be really difficult to deliver. Why? Well, for starters, Spielberg is already hard at work on his next movie, Close Encounters of a Third Kind, which, by the way, Columbia Pictures has already greenlit and will be putting in production the following May. And so even if Stephen wanted to make Jaws 2, and at this point he doesn't, Spielberg is not available for the foreseeable future. Now, to make matters worse for David and Richard, Stephen reveals that he has just signed one of Jaws' surviving stars, Richard Dreyfuss. He played oceanographer Matt Hooper, the one who was in the shark cage and was going to take out the great white with that spear full of poison. Anyway, Spielberg signed Dreyfuss to be the star of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which means that it now both Stephen and Richard are no longer available for Jaws 2. Which creates a serious problem for Brown and Zanuck, because if you recall the last 10 minutes or so of the original Jaws, first Captain Quint, Robert Shaw's character, he becomes fish food.
Yep.
And then the Great White, the thing that's been keeping the beaches closed in Amity, explodes with spectacular fashion. So just to review here, Universal now wants a sequel to a hit film. Only problem is director's not interested in coming back. One of the original stars is tied up for the better part of the coming year. The other star got eaten, and then the title character, the shark with the jaws, he blew up too. So it's like, this is not a good spot to be in if you want to make a sequel. You don't have a whole lot of options.
Jim, they all have brothers. It's just everybody's brothers come along. It's a brother shark, brother. That's how you make a sequel. No, it's.
By the way, they actually went another way with Jaws 3 and Jaws 4, better known as Jaws the Revenge. It was Martin Brody's sons who evidently went after the son of that, but we'll get to that at the other part of today's feature. But okay, so Brown and Zanuck, initially they're like, well, what do? We need something to build the sequel around. And they're like, well, wait a minute. There's that story that Quint tells Roy Scheider's character, and again, that's Police Chief Martin Brody and Richard Dreyfuss, Matt Hooper. It's the night they're on the Orca where Quint talks about his experiences aboard the USS Indianapolis. And for those of you who don't recall this part of the original Jaws, I'll quickly recount Quint's tale. He's supposedly a member of the crew of the USS Indianapolis, which is a heavy cruiser in the U.S. Navy, which back in July of 1945, by the way, 80 years ago this month, it went on a super secret mission. And the Indianapolis was entrusted with delivering Little Boy, the first nuclear weapon to ever be used in combat. They had to deliver it to Tinian Island, which is in the Philippines. And that's where, on August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay took off from, which then resulted in the flattening of Hiroshima. And then just a few weeks after that, Japan surrender and the end of World War II. But anyway, the Indianapolis has completed the super secret part of its mission. It's returning to port when it's then sunk by a Japanese sub. And by the way, this is after they've delivered Little Boy to Tinian Island. But again, they're on a super secret mission that nobody knows about. So, Eric, no rescue mission is launched. And this is a tragedy beyond imagining, folks. I mean, initially there's 1,195 men aboard the Indianapolis because this heavy cruiser sinks so quickly after the sub attack. It goes down just 12 minutes after the first torpedoes hit. Nearly 300 men are immediately lost. They go down with the ship, but there are still 900 survivors now bobbing out there in the Pacific. But again, nobody knows they're out there. It's not till 4 days later, Eric, that a Navy plane on routine patrol. I mean, again, no one has any idea what's happened to the Indianapolis. Flies over the remaining members of the crew, which at this point, thanks to exposure, dehydration, salt water poisoning, and of course those shark attacks that Quinn tells Brody and Hooper about, only 316 men are still alive. And that's 3/4 of the Indianapolis crew lost. No U.S. warship that had previously been sunk had ever lost so many sailors before. Now, where this gets interesting is, remember, all of this is going on, these conversations with Spielberg and that sort of thing. It's the fall of 1975. And again, this is when they're like, well, do we do something with the story of Indianapolis? But at the same time, Universal Pictures is shooting Midway, which is a recounting of the Battle of Midway from World War II, held in 1942. And this is a project that Universal is shooting in its sense-around process. Do you know this one at all, where they set up the wall of speakers inside the theater, and so when there are explosions, you feel it in your chest?
See, I thought that was just for Fantasia.
Well, no, that's what's
different.
That's what was so fascinating about it. Disney did it for stereo, whereas Universal, they used it for the movie Earthquake.
Okay.
They used it for a movie called Roller Coaster, and they use it for Midway. And
okay.
Anyway, Universal is shooting Midway with the cooperation of the U.S. military, which means they're shooting scenes for this World War II era film on really for real naval bases around Southern California. So we're talking about places like Long Beach, San Diego, Los Angeles Harbor. The U.S. Navy is even letting Universal shoot scenes for Midway aboard the USS Lexington, which is this full-sized aircraft carrier that's currently on patrol in the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America, depending on your political persuasion. Anyway, Brown and Zanuck think, well, look, Universal's getting all of this cooperation going already with Midway, which, by the way, would arrive in theaters the following summer, June of 76. In fact, became an enormous success, Eric, selling $100 million worth of tickets worldwide. Not a Jaws success exactly, but close. So Richard, oh, cool. Universal's got something going on with the military, so let's meet with the military liaison, the guy who's coordinating the stuff for the Midway movie, and say, hey, we're thinking about doing a movie based on the sinking of the Indianapolis, and is there any chance that we could borrow a World War II era heavy cruiser from the Navy? And Eric, the military liaison immediately shuts Brown and Zanuck down. He flat out tells the producers of the original Jaws that while the U.S. Navy is happy to work with Universal to make a movie about the Battle of Midway from 1942, because that was one of the U.S. military's early victories in World War II, There is just no way that the U.S. Navy would ever cooperate with production of a movie that would any way, shape, or form be looking back, looking to revisit or potentially sensationalize one of the greatest tragedies of World War II. Which means, if they're going to set their Jaws sequel aboard a recreation of the Indianapolis, Universal's not going to be able to borrow a similar vessel from the U.S. Navy to use during production. They're going to have to build one. And
Okay.
and that's going to raise the production costs of Jaws 2 significantly, something that Universal isn't excited about at all. So, which is why Zanuck and Brown now they have to find another idea to build their Jaws sequel around. Now, weird little bend in the story. Some 40 years later, June of 2015, production begins on USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage. And because this movie isn't going to be a sequel to Jaws, but rather a story about the heroism of the men who survived this naval disaster. By the way, Nicolas Cage plays the lead in this thing. Charles McVeigh, the captain of the Indianapolis, who manages to keep those 316 men alive out in the Pacific, 4 days floating around. This movie gets produced with the full cooperation of the U.S. Navy. They even allowed them to shoot at the USS Battleship Alabama, which is anchored in Mobile Harbor. They're in Alabama as something that school kids can visit. And USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage, then saw a limited theatrical release on November 11th, 2016. November 11th, of course, being Veterans Day. That said, film primarily became available for viewing in the States as a digital download on iTunes and Amazon. So if you're interested, folks, go check it out there.
Are there sharks, Jim? Are there sharks in this movie?
I believe so.
Right.
But anyway, getting back to sharks. So what did Brown and Zanuck do in regard to their Jaws sequel? And again, Universal Picture wants yesterday. We'll get to that in a moment.
Using a Clorox disinfecting wipe to clean that stuck-on sauce from the stove feels like...
Oh, boy. That tickles. Stop.
It feels like coming home to your needy corgi after a long day.
Best part of the day, finally.
With Clorox, clean feels carefree. Clean feels good. Use as directed.
New Vitamin Water Zero Sugar Pineapple Passion Fruit is packed with vitamins. Just like the amount of peas we packed in that sentence. It's packed like your tote bag. The one you stole from your ex. Or your overpriced half a studio apartment. Or extra rushed rush hour traffic. Packed like your calendar. Triple booked at 5, of course. Grab a Vitamin Water. Did we mention it's packed with vitamins?
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
And we're back. Okay, and more importantly, we're back to the story of the making of Jaws 2. All right, just a review. Brown and Zanuck don't have Spielberg, don't have Richard Dreyfuss. Robert Shaw is is floating somewhere in the Atlantic. Likewise, what's left of the original Great White. But what they do have is Roy Scheider, who previously played Police Chief Martin Brody. They have Lorraine Gary, who played Martin's wife Ellen. They have Murray Hamilton, who played Larry Vaughn, the mayor of Amity Island. Then finally, Larry Kramer, who played Deputy Henricks, Martin Brody's second in command. And, so, all right, we got those characters. They then reach out to Howard Sackler. This is the award-winning playwright who did an uncredited rewrite on the screenplay of the original Jaws, the one that Peter Benchley, who, by the way, is the author of the original Jaws novel, and Carl Gottlieb are credited with. But Howard is the guy who looks at these characters and makes the first stab at the story for Jaws 2. And Howard initially, you always get notes from the people at the studio and the folks, up in the Black Tower. They had their own idea. And as we mentioned in the first half of this feature, those geniuses are like, well, what if Martin and Ellen's sons, which, by the way, if you remember the first film, it's 17-year-old Michael and 6-year-old Sean. It's like they should do battle with the son of the original shark.
All right.
It's like, oh, lovely. That's a brilliant idea. But again, Howard dismisses it. The guys up in the Black Tower won't let it go. And when we get to talking about Jaws 3D and Jaws 4, which was also known as Jaws the Revenge later on with this series of features, they rammed that idea down the throat of the Jaws production team. But so what sort of story does Sackler come up with for this Jaws sequel? And all right, it's now 4 years after that terrible summer, and Amity Island's tourist economy is only just now beginning to recover from those unfortunate events. And Len Peterson, a developer who it is not so subtly suggested may have mafia ties, has built a brand new resort on the island, which the citizens of Amity hope will convince tourists to forget all about that pesky great white shark and all those attacks a few summers back. Only problem is, Eric, there's now a new shark in town. By the way, she, and that's important. We'll get to in a bit why it's important. She's a she. She begins by attacking two scuba divers who have made the unfortunate choice to go diving off the shore of Amity Island because they want to get pictures of the orca sitting at the bottom. And evidently, hey, no photographs. I'm going to eat your face. All right. Anyway, their camera goes off during these attacks. And then I don't entirely understand this because the planet I live on, cameras are heavy. This camera doesn't sink to the bottom. It somehow floats to the top. It makes its way to shore, where it's then recovered by Martin Brody's assistant, again, Deputy Jeff Hendricks, who, hey, I'll get this film developed.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
All right. Very next day, the same great white, evidently not hungry from those two photographers, they weren't exactly filling, now goes after a water skier. Oh, this is also a fascinating part of the Jaws 2 story. Universal insisted, one of the notes they handed down to Sackler, this movie needs a scene where the great white attacks somebody on water skis. And why is that? Well, we've mocked up a poster for this sequel, and we took it to a focus group. And the focus group went wild for this. It's a girl in a yellow bikini with a shark leaping out of the water directly behind her. They loved that. They also loved the catchphrase we came up with for this movie, which, by the way, we haven't shot yet. And that catchphrase is, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. Anyway, following the note that they got from the guys in the Black Tower, this great white first eats the water skier and then attacks the boat that was pulling the water skier.
Of course.
All right.
Did it eat the water ski?
Well, it tries to eat the boat, which in the process, the boat catches on fire. The gas from the engine splatters all over and actually burns the face of the shark. So just to review, we now have a shark that's hungry, angry, and burned, which is not good news for the citizens of Amity. And now, sometime after this, a killer whale carcass washes up on shore with giant bite marks in its side. Also, some debris from the water skiing boat also comes in. And Police Chief Martin Brody, looking at this evidence, success, this must be the work of another great white. And now, again, nobody on Amity Island wants to hear this. We're days away from this new resort opening, but Deputy Hendricks, again, he got that film developed, and they're looking at the pictures, and there's one image that looks like it's kind of the face of a great white shark. But Police Chief Brody, he needs corroboration, so he reaches out to his old friend Matt Hooper, hoping that he can look at this image and say definitively, yep, great, you had a great white shark. But when Martin calls down to Woods Hole, that's where this oceanographer supposedly worked, he finds that Hooper's out of town. In fact, he's so far out of town, he's on a research expedition in Antarctica. So now Police Chief Brody, he's the only guy in town who's willing to say the quiet part out loud. There's another great white shark off the coast of Amity Island eating people. So he starts to raise his concerns, and Mayor Larry Vaughn is no.
Right.
Now, okay. Anybody who's seen the first film knows this is kind of a by-the-numbers redo of the story of the original Jaws, only this time around, it's not Steven Spielberg directing. It's noted theater and film director John D. Hancock, who a gentleman who directed the very well-received Robert De Niro movie from 1973, Bang the Drum Slowly. But speaking of slowly, that's what's concerning the folks back in Hollywood when they see the footage that's now coming in from the set of Jaws 2. And where they had hoped that what they'd be getting for their money was an exciting, fast-paced follow-up to the world's first summer blockbuster. But what they're seeing instead from John D. Hancock is a slow-moving drama where Martin Brody is slowly but steadily building a case for, hey, there's a new shark just offshore. And here's the thing, Eric, we talked at the top of this feature about how original Jaws was 55 days and they let Spielberg go for 159 days. This time around, given the footage that was coming off the set, Universal did something they did not do with Spielberg. They actually shut down production of Jaws 2. They fired John D. Hancock. They told the entire production team, come home. We need to figure this out.
Wow. That bad. That, like, they don't do that often, right?
No, not at all. And it's just, so for a time, again, everybody out west is like, are you kidding me? The sequel to Hollywood's top earning movie of all time now may not actually happen. And on next week's installment of this series, we're going to find out about how production of Jaws 2 got restarted, not in Massachusetts and off the shore of Martha's Vineyard, mind you, but now down in Florida. And we're also going to talk about how Steven Spielberg almost came to the rescue of this movie with an entirely different storyline. One that would have been a whole new spin on the original Jaws. But again, we'll get to that on next week's Epic Universal podcast. And okay, so sorry, cliffhanger. What can I tell you, folks? All right, so I guess that brings us to the close for this week's show, Eric. And obviously, from our note from Brandon, we love hearing from people out there who have questions or suggestions for stories that we can do here on this podcast. So can you tell the nice folks how they can get a hold of you?
Sure. If you want to send me any comments, suggestions, questions, we can talk about them on the show. You can reach me at Eric Hersey on pretty much all of the social media networks, but you could also reach Jim. And Jim, how can they find you?
Let's see. I am on X and Instagram as Jim Hill Media and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And I guess, again, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks again for listening. And please stick around to find out what's coming up this month on the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. We also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Len Testa. For animation and movie news, please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcasts, like The Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our Epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly. If you enjoy theme park history, we also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about podcasts and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.